Well, hello and welcome back. We are continuing our season. AI shining lights on the cracks. We're going to see what happens this episode. If we're going to shine some light, if we're going to see some cracks, we're going to see how this one goes. We've gone a little bit off course. This is part 2, but that's okay. We're going to see what happens, and you're going to find where some puns were involved in some of that opening monologue, as it were. But more importantly, it's time for me to introduce myself. Who's this guy monologuing on the other side? He is one of the founders of Developreneur, Building Better Developers, which is the podcast you are listening to. Preferably Building Better Developers, because Developreneur just doesn't roll off people's tongue quite the same way. I am also the founder of RB Consulting, where we help you avoid expensive technology mistakes before they happen. We help you get some clarity and make sure that when you dive into that project, into that investment, that you actually know where you're going and you have a roadmap to get to the end. Good thing and bad thing. Good thing is I've had a great summer. It's been one of those that I've managed to dodge bad weather for the most part. A few major fires and stuff like that. But other than those kinds of things, the things that come from just dry and heat, but have avoided damage and things like that. So I've had a good time being able to do that. And it's now into the, even though it's not even the end of summer, I'm in an area where it's cool nights and not as hot days. So it's great. I'm loving my weather this year. The bad news is, or the bad thing recently is, gosh, I'm still I am into the beginning of what is usually seasonally very much a big, busy part of business. And I'm already slammed. And so I may start talking a lot faster, and we're going to shorten down our episodes. No, we're not going to do that. But this is one of those that it's it's the good and the bad, is that sometimes you just get really, really busy. Sometimes it's not for all the right reasons. Sometimes you're busy and you're not productive. Sometimes you're actually busy and productive, and that's probably the best of both worlds. A guy that is neither right now because he's just waiting on me to finish. Michael, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Malash. I'm with the co-founders of Building Better Developers, also known as Developreneur. I'm also the founder of Envision QA, where we help businesses take a step back and really understand what's working, what's not, and where their systems are holding them back. That way, they can make the right improvements with confidence. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing, back to video games a little bit. Our creators launched a new patch, so there's a little new mission going on. Lots of little things to try to figure out how to complete the mission. It's been kind of fun. Bad thing is I am super slammed, like you kind of talked about. It's I don't have much time for it, especially this week, because this week is just off the rails.
I know how those go. That being said, see you next time. No, but that being said, let's dive right into this episode. We're going to continue right where we left off, right in this conversation. And it really does, it's we have drifted around a little bit as we started out, but we start really, I think, paying off in this second part as we talk about some key things and some key learnings. And there's some really good stuff here, particularly if you're trying to build business, trying to build a team, or in a company where teamwork is something that could really help you out. And so without further ado, let's continue right back where we left off. Now, you mentioned this is, you've done this many times. It's not your first rodeo, as they say. And through all of the different organizations that you've started, worked with, and dealt with, what are we'll start with the strengths. It's what is something that you have found across all of those that is the thing that helped it succeed, the thread that said, this is something that if it's going to succeed, this is what we have, whether it's something technical or cultural or anything else.
So the number one thing that I've seen is them accepting the fact, and when I explained it to this, for some reason they'll listen to it, but they wouldn't listen to it if I said it in another way, is that the advice that you learn in kindergarten, you are still using, and it's the worst managerial advice you ever heard in your life. And we even put a marketing pitch on this advice back in the day. It was the golden rule, the thing you had to learn, the most important thing. Treat others the way you want to be treated. And that is great on a child-to-child level. Don't punch each other. Don't scream at each other. Don't throw mud in each other's faces. That's good. As adults and managers, it's horrible because of everything I just said. The rest of the personality types are not going to respond to you. So they hear it like that, and they're like, I guess my brain never rewrote that program. And you guys are programmers. Once something's embedded in the beginning, it's really hard to get out. Well, our brains aren't that much different on a subconscious level. And that's what's going on all the time. So if you could just fix that, and by the way, it's incredibly easy to fix that. And there's a very simple free answer. It's not even that hard of common sense. Talk to your employees about what's actually going on in their personal life. Don't be afraid of whatever reasons in your head that you're not talking to them about why they're here, what they're trying to get out of this business, etc. And that's the issue we see. But once they overcome that and they start connecting with them in a way that they want to be connected with, quite frankly, the reward becomes secondary. Now, the reward does have to be powerful enough that it encapsulates their soul and their cause for going to work. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a cruise. We personally use cruises because as a company, we caught the cruise bug and we like it. We know a lot of other people catch it and they use it too. But the point is that just changing that culture of they're going to communicate with me in a way I want to be communicated with. It seems so basic, so rudimentary. We're all using English. We're all, saying the same things, but we all hear them differently. Which is why, like we've done studies about people's audiences before. Like this was one of our cool clients. It wasn't necessarily for the cruises. This was a consulting one back in the day about they were trying to profile their audience from a podcast. It was an audio only podcast. And they were trying to say, we essentially want to groom our audience to be people who are this, demographic. Aside from the fact that's the worst way of going about it that we eventually corrected. What we were able to prove that they were right about was the way you're talking to people and the language you use that you two naturally as a co-host are doing are attracting people who have the same type of personalities as you. But that didn't lie to the problem because if you had the same kind of personality of you already solved the issue they were trying to fix. So that was where we went through the process of going through that. But that's this whole psychological thing people discount. The reality is 97% of you have no idea how you build a relationship on a scientific level. You just know the equivalent of pedal fast and don't fall. That's how you ride a bike. But you can never scientifically explain why, let alone replicate it. And why so many 12-year-olds don't try riding bikes anymore, because their parents don't really know how to teach them and it's not fun.
So now let's flip that and let's talk about what have you seen that's a red flag across organizations or something along those lines, the kinds of things that as you've been involved with these are things you got to watch out for, and it's going to sink your ship essentially.
Oh, there's a 2-question litmus test. I can tell you this right now. Any business owner, if you fail either of these 2 questions, your business is dead. It's a matter of time. What is the business's relationship with the employees? And what is the business's relationship with the prospects/clients? If either one of those answers are it's okay, but your business is stalling and will eventually die. It's just a matter of when. And it's an inevitable process. You need to fix those 2 questions. Obviously, there's a lot of subdivision from there, but those are the 2 fundamental questions every business has for its litmus test.
How often have you found that organizations think they have a really good relationship with their customers or with their employees, and they don't? It's really not that.
Well, businesses are more prone to get the feedback from the clients than they are from the employees. A lot of the notion of I'm paying you, just do your job supersedes everything, and it's a disaster. So when they see the feedback from the clients, it's like, why didn't we get a 5-star review? Like, why didn't they resubscribe? Why did they cancel the subscription? Stuff like that is how it comes up. And then there's now a business reason of looking into this because we're losing revenue. We all can see that. But it never starts with the core question of what is the problem we actually solve? What is required to solve this problem? And then what is the stuff that if someone had this problem, they also would want solved? See, if you go that deep into your clients' wants and desires around the problem about why they're hiring you, that's how you differentiate yourself from the crowd. Because it's not just, okay, he came in, he solved my problem, and 10 minutes later, I'm going to have a new problem because he patched this pipe and the one down the road is going to break. It's, he solved the entire thing. Like, okay, cool. That's what you would want. And by the way, when you do that, you make your business stand out. You have less things for your clientele to compare you against. And because they can't put you in a bucket because you do so much better work and more work than your competition, you don't have a price anchor you're fighting against. So you really can set your own prices in a much more powerful way and therefore get better margins, which I don't care what stage of the business you're at, day one or Fortune 500, that's what you want. So why don't we actually look at this from what matters, which is what the problem we solve for our clients is, instead of their demographic information.
So it's funny, these questions you're talking about. I want to kind of circle back because early on, when you were talking about preparing, like finding customers and things like that, you talked about giving them like a questionnaire. Is this like a bunch of social questions to kind of make sure that you're matching the right customer to the experience?
Well, it's not that you're necessarily doing a questionnaire with them. It's setting back and looking at what is the problem our business actually solves. And then just from a logical standpoint, what are the reasonable extensions of that problem? So, you know, there's a lot of different angles you can take here. Like, for instance, I have a set of clients that are real estate agents, real estate offices. The problem that they have is that, like the rest of the nation, they don't want to work when the weather is bad. So basically, 90% of my sales force stops working at Labor Day and maybe they show back up at Easter next year. That's the reality. That's why every single October you hear on the cable news channels the American housing market is slowing down. Of course, it's slowing down. There's no one selling any houses. It's not that people aren't dying anymore or people want to relocate or anything like that. You can die in the winter just as easily as you can die in the summer. Like, that's a fact. There is no, oh, it's January, no one's going to die month. Like, it's the reality. But the thing is no one wants to go out and show the houses. So that's a real problem. And we could just accept it as, well, that's the way it always is. Let's just deal with it. Or we could go, if we were going to have those people work longer, what would actually do it? Clearly, the commission check isn't getting the job done. What would? Well, if we were tying their success to their results and to their peers' results, and we got their family on board, well, now all of a sudden, just because I hit my quota and I'm comfortable for the rest of the year, I want to go on this cruise and I want you guys to pay for it. So I will go and do 3 more listings, or I will make sure that this guy doesn't start slacking off. Or, you know what? I'm going to recognize that I hate doing part of this job and you're really good at it. And I like doing the part you hate. And we're going to combine, and our combined forces will be stronger than individual forces. All of these different things that, quite frankly, most commission only jobs allow that freedom to do, because, hey, if you fail, I don't care. I just need someone else who can pass the test. And that's the mindset that most of the industries I serve have, for better or worse. Talking about you, insurance and banking, and that's the reality. So now all of a sudden, we take a cruise. We come back from the October one. We realize to qualify for the spring one, we need to hit all these more closings. That cruise was really awesome. I guess I'll keep working a little bit. And then they go all the way until Thanksgiving. Now, I don't want to try to pretend and say I can get people to work during December. I don't think it's possible. Like, I don't. But the reality is getting 10 months out of your sales force opposed to 5 is a really big difference. And that's an example of how we look at the problem that our clients have, getting their sales force to stay engaged for longer in the year. Now, real estate's more extreme because they literally don't show up. Things like automotive, they just start phoning it in. Insurance, I hit my quota. Yeah, I'll call them up tomorrow. Like, the little traction points that, you could have if you pushed it hard, like you did when you were hungry and young, if you will. But now it's, we'll get to that next week. I'm going to go on vacation. I don't need to worry about getting this loan application through. I'll deal with it next week. The underwriter's going to delay it anyway. Whatever it does make. So all these different reasons we develop go away. And it's like, no, if I got this done now, there'll be a new one next week, or whatever the case might be. And as the owner or manager of that location, what happens? A lot more closings. And that's what everyone wants, because that's what the revenue happens. And by the way, that's how they offset my cost. So they end up net coming ahead even after they're paying me the high rate.
So that's
and when I say me, I mean Elite Business Cruises. I just get excited with my own clients.
So that brings up an interesting question then. So you've defined your why really well, and you've defined all these businesses that you've already interacted with and helped. How are you measuring the success of the program after they leave? So you can measure it while they're there. You can see how they're interacting. But once they leave, how are you ensuring that they're still performing after you have these cruises? How do you know from the business perspective that it's still working?
Most don't leave. We do 6-month contracts and they renew with us because they want to keep it going. So I don't know. To be totally honest, I don't have an answer to that. The way that we structure all our contracts is they're from the first of the year to the end of June, the 1st of July to the end of December. And then the cruise happens in the following October or April, depending upon which contest you won. So if you won the spring one, your cruise is in October and vice versa. Yeah, I mean, our retention rate is incredibly high. Um, it doesn't force anyone to stay with us or anything like that. In the few times that someone didn't want to stay with us, it was almost always the same type of situation. They sold the business and the new owner didn't see the value in it. Well, that's on them. Same's true, or the manager got promoted, and when corporate found out that we were involved, corporate shut it down because they can do it better. They can. And 9 times out of 10, what happens is the employees got used to it. They expected it. They then go to wherever the new place is because this is now not the culture they wanted to be a part of. They talk to the new guy, and then we get a call with a magical referral in our inbox. So the answer is, I guess that does answer your question. If you went from caring about your employees to now they think you don't care about them, it's worse than losing the 10 pounds and gaining the 20 back that everyone has every beach season.
Yeah, that makes sense. So essentially, you're using your retention in the follow-up meetings as kind of your metrics for how well this is doing with your customers.
Oh yeah.
One other question, I'll pass it back to Rob after this, is so once you get them on the cruise, so is that where your part of the process ends, or is your company actively involved with keeping the employees uh, not happy, but essentially keeping them in line to show up for their trainings, to be engaged with their trainings, and kind of have a good experience?
Oh, we don't do trainings on the cruise for these employees. This is strictly the reward. The family gets to hang out. So there is no trainings on board the cruise for these clients. What we do is, and this is where I got to draw the line between the nonprofit clients versus the industry clients, because the nonprofit is a completely different product that we provide. But for our industry clients, that's the reward. There's oftentimes a recognition piece that they'll do internally. Sometimes they'll do it on a stage or they'll do it at a dinner, but it's really the reward of, hey, this is why dad missed so many t-ball practices or dance recitals, and hey, all you can eat, go have fun, type thing. Do the water slide up, jump off the waterfall, whatever your case is. And oh, by the way, kids, you're not in school this week, so that's also cool too. When you look at it all together, everyone really likes it. And then it's amazing what happens when you get your employees' personal life and professional life pointed in the same direction, because now all of a sudden the household is like, you guys are hitting your quota, right? Like we're going in April, like this is going to happen, right? It's amazing what that does to the motivational force of your people.
Yeah, it does help a lot. You get everybody. It's it does. You mentioned a couple of times. It gets you from a bunch of individuals to now being a team working towards the same goal. Whether it's the Super Bowl and winning that trophy, or whether it's the Cruise Bowl and being able to go on a cruise next spring or next fall. You've got to be rowing in the same direction. Now, as your prior organizations and companies that you've built and been a part of. How much of that sort of carried into this? How much are the lessons learned, or maybe were there one or two lessons that when you got to this, you're like, this is where I really need to share with other organizations to help them be successful?
Well, that's where the litmus test came from that I gave before. The two questions that define your business success: the business's relationship with the clients and the business's relationship with the employees. What I found is that the more technologically advanced we're becoming as a society, and I guess every generation says this in their own ways, the worse we are getting at relationships. One of the books that absolutely fascinated me was The Anxious Generation, which basically highlighted people who were in puberty before and after iPhones had selfie cameras. Essentially, is where they drew the line. Um, and just looking at this particular example, if you have a daughter who's going to prom and she takes a picture of herself and she shows it to grandma, grandma has no idea if there's filtering on or whatever. She says, "Oh, you look beautiful." The parents, you don't normally look like that, but I get where you're going. All of her peers know she doctored the picture. So that relationship of how we connect with each other is constantly changing and evolving, but it is a relationship. And this is, I think, one of the secret reasons about why our system works is because every day entering the workforce, someone who was used to the old school talking to people in person, looking them in the eye, shaking each other's hands, is leaving the workforce, and someone who only knew how to connect through a phone is entering it. And these kids want to have meaningful relationships and experiences, but literally don't know how to. And there's all kinds of different social metrics that can back that up in different capacities, but they don't know how to actually connect with each other. And there is a little bit of open bar, you're all stuck together, that helps fix that problem. And there is part of that they like working for it, even if they're sitting in a cubicle all day, just putting information into a CRM, or making sure underwriting actually does their job. Whatever the case might be, it's a longing that they want to have. And I get that I just generalize an entire generation, but it's also true.
Now, have you seen, this is an interesting one, is because you brought up we definitely have gotten more um, digitally connected, and that's become more of our thing, to the point of even our jobs now, that you have companies that are partially or fully remote. Now, have you seen trends with your customers that the maybe the ones that are more in person do a little better or more likely to do something this, or maybe the ones that are more remote or more likely to go this route? Because I can definitely see where there's pros and cons to both sides of that.
So I definitely see that the real estate agents are better when they're the in-person ones. There's no doubt they get better traction. And the same is pretty much true with the financial advisors, dash insurance guys, and lenders. Even though I can go on a website right now and get 14 different offerings for different loan prices as a customer, customers still are leaning towards, I want to know someone. Part of that is I don't trust putting my social security number on the internet. I think that's a big part of it. I think that might actually be the only part of it, but that's the reality of it. But then there's other industries that, you know, Grubhub. I don't need to see the guy who's making it. Just deliver it, leave it on my door, and we're out. So I think it's really a personal thing. Like the this is one thing that I put in my book a lot, that I think that is the answer, as I'm saying this out, is that people need a salesperson for a purchase that is important to them. Not necessarily expensive, but important. And this is why you've never seen a successful online engagement ring store, because it's important. I want to actually be involved with the salesperson who knows what it is. I want to be involved in the process in a way that Amazon flat out can't deliver. So I think that is probably the line in the sand. How important is the solution you're providing versus functionally not important? And I think and again, that has nothing to do with price. That has to do with your buyer's disposition.
Yeah, this is a great. This is yeah. We could do multiple or episodes on this alone. Is the whole when personal matters and when it doesn't, and drawing the line with those, and even sometimes within the sales process where there's a you can initially get into that funnel and you can bring all kinds of people in, but there's a point where somebody wants it's like I got to have a person that I'm talking to. I can't just be talking to emails or voicemails or even phone calls. There's certain things that you need that. And I love how you phrase it. It's not really about the value of what you're selling or the cost of it as much as it is I guess it's the value to the person that's buying it. How important is this? How personal is this? How much is this something that I guess it's like, I guess it is. I'm okay if I spend my money on the wrong thing, but I'm not okay if I'm investing, emotionally or personally investing in something and that's not right. And engagement rings would probably be something that falls into that category because you're going to hear about it the rest of your life if you don't get that one right. So it's, or maybe you don't, and maybe that's your bigger problem. So there are those. So on that happy note, as we are running into the end of our time this time around, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you or continue the conversation if they'd like to?
Well, certainly use this QR code that's over my shoulder. That will direct you to Elite Business Cruises. That's elitebusinesscruises.com, where you'll get a hold of me or one of the other great members of the team.
Excellent. And we will have links to that for those that are in the show notes, for those that don't have or the audio people, obviously, and then anybody else that isn't really fans of QR codes or can't get a hold of it. So that being said, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with us, jumping in, and it's been a great, lively conversation. We've bounced around a little bit, and it's always fun to have somebody that can just roll with the punches as it is as well, and keep it interesting, give us some good stories along the way. And for those of you listening, thank you so much. We appreciate you and giving your time. And hopefully there's a cruise ahead of you in your future. If not, talk to your boss and see what you can do. And of course, if you're a sole proprietorship, then have a really good conversation with your boss and go jump into a cruise somewhere. So go out there, as always, have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time. So bonus, like what's the, a challenge or a bonus thought that you've picked up, a nugget that you've picked up over your years of business acumen here?
Well, so I'll answer that, but I want to have one continuation on what we ended on, which was the importance of your clients or not and how valuable you are to them. Because this is part of the litmus test of will you actually be able to set your own price or not? Because just take this example. If the whole phenomenon of having people take groceries and deliver it to you, some people are completely okay with that. But the ones who are doing cooking and they really that's their passion, they need to be the ones who actively pick out and take out the produce. Doesn't change the cost of the lettuce. It doesn't change, quite frankly, even the skill of the picker of the lettuce who puts it in there. But they need to be involved. So the real question is how are you differentiating your business to connect to those who truly care about your problem that you're solving versus, hey, he just won a solution that's on the board. Just give me the cheapest one and keep it moving. That's how you win B2B sales, is you figure out how to identify the clients that are going to value you. And that's one of the important things. That's why leaning into your lane can be so successful if you know how to do it correctly.
Excellent answer. That's in itself is definitely that is worth the bonus time for those that have stuck around. Actually, for those of you guys that have looked at our ugly mugs for the last hour or so or half hour and enjoyed it that way. So you guys as well. We appreciate you just as much, maybe even a little bit more, but don't tell them, those that are just the audio only people. And if you guys are both triple, appreciate you as well. That being
loyal
said,
super fans right there. Thank you for being both.
That's right. If you do both, that's good. Simulcast, those kinds of things. If you guys have watch parties, you're way up there. And let us know. We want to know when we'll drop in on one of those watch parties at some point. We appreciate you guys and all the times you spent. We appreciate your time, Joe, and hanging out with us and having a great conversation and just bringing a smile and a QR code along the way. And we will let you know when this is ready. Probably within the next week or two, we'll shoot you some links. Feel free to share it wherever. And if there's anything we do for you, let us know.
Well, send me the video links because I find that those get shared a whole lot more than the audio ones. Probably because your listeners are so caring; they give you the extra time.
Definitely. So yeah, we will send those along. Michael's our do it all audio and video and editor guy. So he'll send you some stuff.
God bless
So
him.
that way I can be like, just wave at him and say, make it happen. So that's the best kind of task to have. So thanks so much, Joe.
As someone who's been editing audio podcasts since 2017, that is a job that I wouldn't get. I do not envy anyone who does it. It is not fun at all. That's why I started doing lives. There was no editing. Just let them see the work. Do it live.
That is probably the easiest way. We've talked about that a couple of times. How do we reduce the editing side of this so that we can just push those things through and be done with it? So, well, thanks so much.
We'll get a lot better ones.
But then you don't have. It gives you more feel for the actual, the whole conversation, stuff like that. You get a little more of the personalities and not the clean and polished side of it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Have yourself a good rest of the day, and we're getting close to that time, so a good weekend as well.
Likewise. Well, you guys have a great one. Let me know on the other side, and send me any follow-ups that you want to do, whether it be professionally or whatnot. We'll go from there.
Sounds good. Well, thanks a lot, Joe. Have a good one.
Perfect, guys. Have a good one.